I buy faulty electronic items from eBay, attempt to fix them and sell them for a profit and make some money. This is Sally's spectacular spreadsheet, and Sally is looking very healthy. Last episode, we managed to profit £221, bringing the total profit to a whopping £817.58. If I managed to profit £1,000 total, I did say I would end season 1 of profit or loss. Today, that actually looks very doable. Welcome your faces back to episode number 93. To mark this potentially monumental celebration, I'm going to wear some new gloves. The other pair that I have is currently in the wash, so I'm going to open a brand new pack. And to regular viewers of the channel, they will be very happy I'm wearing brand new ones. Let's take a look and see what we have on the bench today. I paid a grand total of £180 for this faulty PlayStation 5. Supposedly, and I say that with a capital S, it has no display. But we all know what eBay items can be like. I don't know if this has been opened before. It doesn't say on the listing. And there is quite literally only one picture of the console, and that's the outside of it. Let's see if it's been opened. It has. The warranty sticker, which is at the top of the console just here, has the void markings, which basically means this has been ripped off. So it does look like we're messing with one that has had work done to it, is what I'm going to assume. What's not good about this, Joey, I hear you asking? Well, my friends, this is liquid metal. Why is there liquid metal on the disk drive? I have no idea. I don't know why this is a thing, but that does not fill me with hope. First of all, before we start prying it open and making our job difficult, let's give it a power test and just make sure it does go to a white light. Plug in the power. We heard the crackle, that's good. We're looking for a white light right here. First of all, a blue one, and then a white one. Here's the blue, good. Do we have a disc? No disc, and we're not even going to speak about what's inside here. The model of it is a 1016A, which is one of the earliest revisions of the PlayStation 5. As we can see, white light, perfect. Let's turn it off. Oh, I get the 3 beeps. I think maybe it's still doing something. It might have overheated or something previous. So I'm just going to wait for this to finish its loop cycle, which it doesn't seem to be doing. So I am just going to hold down the power button. We should hear another beep any second now. Come on. There we go. Okay. And this should now die down, hopefully, he says. There we go. How does the port look? Oh, okay. Interestingly enough, it doesn't look like the port has been changed on the face of it anyway, should we say. It might be a little bit far back, actually, but it seems to be solid. So interesting. Let's take it apart. Being honest, my hope and faith is already restored because of the fact all of the screws are in the right places. Don't speak about it, and one day it will happen. Chassis off. Top chassis anyway. Okay, definitely been ripped into before. That's really good. The sign that the disk drive hasn't been opened, so I'm hoping that is the correct one. They have marked and even put on here black screw, because that's where the black screw goes. I like it. I like it. Also, we don't know, because this console is quite old, it might have had a repair 3 years ago. And what's also nice is that these little silver screws that they've put back in haven't been put back too tight. It's showing good signs. It's showing really, really good signs. Okay, be nice to me. Please be nice. Port has been changed before. Okay, looking at the liquid metal, we look all right. Maybe it was liquid metal from another PS5 or something. I'm just going to clean up this liquid metal here. Let's have a look at the board under the scope. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, quite a lot of flux around. Ooh, that Panasonic chip has definitely been changed before. Is it soldered on correctly? I mean, I'm not too sure. I don't know if I can confirm. Let me check this side. That side looks okay. We have a huge tear there. Look at that, through that trace. Lord above. This side. Potentially missing pads there. This might not even be our issue. I've not even looked at the port yet. I don't know if I can bring myself to it now. I mean, look, it's not bad. Just before we move on, did they put Y09 on the right way? They didn't touch it by the looks of it, so that's good. They didn't make my mistake. There's a lot of flux around the board. Around this area for certain, as we can see. So I'll probably give this a little clean once I've had enough heat on it. The 5-volt line, which is over here, the 5-volt rail, that seems to be okay. There's what looks to be a grasshopper leg. Or a noodle, either or. The fact that they had to mark where the screws go back obviously tells me that they've not worked on this console in particular very many times. And this is the port itself. Wow, do you know what? That port looks good, in my opinion. In terms of, look at the solder up the legs. How is that one? Yeah, I mean, look, that is a strong, very well anchored port, if I'm completely honest. Very well anchored. I didn't test the display. Maybe, thinking about it, I should have. But because the Panasonic chip looks the way that it does, that's probably going to be our issue. I'm just going to test these joints. I mean, look. those are all pretty much solid. And I even said, didn't I, when looking at the port from the outside, it looks like a good port. It doesn't look like it's been changed before. Do want to quickly see if we've got much flux in the port. But you see out the back, we've got quite a bit of flux. Shouldn't affect the actual pins. How do the pins look? Do they look fluxy? No, they look okay. And again, there's a good connection there. So again, not a bad port. Up the top, you can see little remnants of flux just on the shielding, but shouldn't necessarily affect too much. Let's check the back side. So this is underneath the encoder IC, when you can see where they've used quite a bit of flux. It's come through the board. That you can't really help that. You can clean up afterwards, though, that's for sure. We've got a bunch of flux over here, and again, this is very nicely anchored. We've got this diode here, which I'm not too sure if it's on the pad. Looks like it is. But everything is definitely going to need, at minimum, a cleanup, right? Could I just leave that port on and change out the Panasonic chip? Most probably. I could. I have reason to believe, looking at it, just from visual inspection, that port is fine. Until I go in with a multimeter and check every single pin to make sure that it actually is working, I can't be certain. However, I am just going to change it out because I like to put my name to a repair and it will feel like a hybrid job, you know? So we'll remove the port and then I'm going to change out the Panasonic chip anyway, because again, that definitely needs to be changed, and I'll change it for one that I've taken off a donor, and we'll go from there. And hopefully, maybe we get a display, or maybe not, and I'll just make it 10 times worse. First jobby then, get the port off. 480 degrees Celsius, airflow speed 99 percentile. This should come out relatively easy because it looks like they've used leaded solder here. I can't wait to give this a nice clean. Here it goes. Pretty much straight away off the board. And again, yeah, nice port. I'm actually going to go microfiber cloth for this, so which is kind of a rarity, I think, at this stage. But because we have so much flux on the board, again, I'm just coming in with a heat here. Give this all a nice clean up. So still 480, just moving that around. And then with a microfiber, just going over it quick. A little bit of IPA. 10 times better already, look at it. What's that? Oh, it's actual board. Okay, well, we'll leave that. Same for this side. Let's get that. Let's get the flux off first. We can see what we're working with properly. You do have to be very careful when you're using microfiber cloth because it's very easy to ping up the components, you know. But if we take a look now, even around the encoder IC and over here, can you see how much better this looks? Just a little bit of heat and a tiny bit of IPA. It looks so much better than what it did. Just get in there as well, look. Okay, whilst I'm here, again, don't really know what solder they've used. Can't vouch for it, not a problem. Just take it out. Come in without hot air again. I personally like to use a solder sucker. There we go. And slowly and very carefully clear those holes. There we go. Now for a bit of Joey flux. Sorry, I'll never call it that again. Come in with our wick. And get it off. Now be careful of that cap. So I'm just going to grab the wick at the end, can you see? And slowly get that solder off. There we go. Now board going to be hot. Microfiber cloth. Jubbly. IPA. Even jubblier. If I want to go over it with a cotton bud, I can. There it is. Right, now, next mission. Remove this bad boy. Now, do these tweezers have the girth needed? I think so, yeah. I'm not going to be using this, so I am going to go 480 degrees Celsius, airflow speed, 99%, just to get it off the board. There we go. Now, I think I see a hole there, which is interesting. I am going to conformal coat that, and I believe, you know where I was talking about we had the issue previously, which is over here. That looks like a ground plane. Yeah, it is. It looks like we've also got plenty of solder around here, but I'm just going to go over it all and cover this up, maybe even get a little bit of conformal coating there. When I say conformal coating, I mean solder mask. I'm going to put a little bit up here so I can use that to dab. I'm going to use a UV lamp now to cure it, and we go with some flux because that's all now cured. And again, I'm just going to add some solder to these pads. Need more flux. Easily rectifiable here. This usually happens. So this is a Metcal soldering iron, and the reason why this is happening is because I believe the iron is too hot. But Metcal soldering irons don't have temperature control. So can you see how quickly it's melting away the flux? Okay, I think that's good. The other bridges we can sort out once we put another chip on. Cleaning away the older flux now because we're going to put some nice brand new stuff on. Looking good. I also believe I have a few Panasonic ICs. Yep. But I have no idea if any of them work. And the reason being is because I went through about 4 or 5 donors trying to fix one once. So we have the arrow up here, which is pointing to pin number 1, which will be this way. Pin number 1 will be shown by a little small dot on the chip as well. I'm going to put the temperature all the way down to about 440 degrees now. But I'm going to keep the airflow at 99%. And I'm going to go for what I like to call a hit and hope method. Okay. What I didn't do is put a tiny bit of solder on ground. So I'm just going to put a little bit of flux and add the smallest blob here. There we go. That is enough. And just tiny, again, little bit of flux. And then we're just going to drop and hope. Here we go. As soon as I see that solder start to wet, I'm going to place the chip on. And because it's leaded, it shouldn't take us long at all. There we go. We can see now. It's all starting to liquefy. We come in with our IC. Put it roughly in place, which is about there, I want to say. Come off. Hold it. Make sure we're very still at this point. There we go. That's pretty spot on. And now a tiny bit more flux. And hopefully flow it into the correct position. I'm also not going to go for the push down effect here because I believe the solder is going to do the job that it needs to. But I will inspect the chip after just to make sure. Might need to push down. We'll see. Solder looks like it's solidified. So now we'll come in with a nice clean. Make sure we're all spick and span. IPA toothbrush. Finalise with microfiber cloth. Dab motion. I won't do it again. I promise. There we go. Okay, let's inspect this chip. How are we looking? All looks soldered. Hey, look at that. Looks good. Let's just check up here. We've only got one side accounted for, Joe. Don't get too happy yet. But that does look good as well. Everything looks connected. Can we go 3 for 3? 3 for 3, we look good. And 4 for 4. Looking nice. No need to push down the chip there, you see. We just flowed it right into place. I'm just going to cover this little area as well with some conformal coating. Sorry, UV mask. There we go. Pretty much as good as new. Look at that. Into resistance mode we go because what I'm going to do is just quickly check on the little caps around the outside of this chip just to make sure we get a good enough reading of what I'm kind of expecting. So what do we get here? I don't think it's taken a long time to read, that's for sure. Oh, it's just come off. Okay. Maybe that wasn't connected properly, or maybe I slipped with the probe and pulled it off. I wasn't looking at the scope when I done that. Oh, okay. Well, is it on the flux tube? Yes, it is. Okay. Relax, Joey. Where's it gone? Oh, it's here. All right, let's just get you back on. That's okay. Just sit back on there like that. Cap seems a little bit weird, this one, hey? Has the end of the cap actually come off? Like, I can't solder that down. Alrighty. Just grab ourselves a little donor here. Give it a small reflow. It's got leaded solder on the pads now, so it should be thoroughly in place. I hope. It's good to me. Does need another little bit of a clean, that's for sure. Unexpected turn of events there. Not to worry, we move, we move. What was I saying? Yes, measuring this cap. Here we go. Okay, 0.8, that's good. Here we have 11k rising, that's okay. We should have 38 ohms. 39 ohms and rising. 41 ohms and rising. 42 ohms and rising. I don't know if it's just because the board is hot, you see. 47, 48, still climbing. But I'm sure it's meant to be up and around the 200 mark. And it seems relatively low. So I'm going to leave it for a second or two. Let the board cool down. What do we have now? The board is a little bit cooler. Oh, careful, Joey. Yeah, 257 wicked. Okay, that's a lot better. 257. Okay, I'm just going to check in diode mode here. I don't want to talk about this chip too much because I'll get upset. What do we get here? 0.43 here, 0.3 here, 0.4 in here. I believe ground. And just to make sure the filters haven't done a crazy one, we're just going to measure through them. So we want continuity across them, going through them, but we don't want it diagonally. So this beep is good. If it beeps like that, it's not good. But that's fine. 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 Okay, now we can just focus on putting this port on. Actually, just to rule everything out. What do we get here, diode mode? 0.63, that's good. Here we get open line. Can we only measure one way through the diode? 0.53. We shouldn't be able to measure this way, which we can't open line. Perfect. Last but not least, this little diode here, just to make sure. 0.48. And what do we have here? Nothing. Good. Okay, let's flux our port here. So I just like to put a tiny bit on. I may require some more in case we get some bridges. But we'll come to that bridge. Aha, if we get to it. A little bit of solder on the end of the iron. And just a quick swoop. Nice. The reason I tin this is to make sure that we have a good connection between the port and the board itself. Try and wipe away as much flux as possible. Okie dokie, now just making our area a little bit warm. Makes life a little bit easier when we go to tin it up. Ensures that the solder goes through the board properly, etc. There should be enough heat. And just some flux. Not too much, mind. Now, stupidly, I'm hanging this off the edge of the board instead of doing it on my mat like I usually do. So it does feel a little bit weird, but we're just going to wait for that solder to go through. Just like that. Looking good. If we need to add more solder, we can do whilst we're doing the actual port reflow. Clean the flux as we go. Okay, now a little bit more flux just over here. Not too much. 450 degrees Celsius, airflow speed 99%. Just going to drop the port in place and hopefully give it a nice little reflow. Solder liquefying, looking really good. Make sure those pads are as well where the port goes. And then just put that port on, move the heat back and forth. You can see it's not quite sat as it should be. So again, I'm just going to add a tiny bit of solder to this leg and the front leg. And the exact same to the other side. Now try and position the port in a place that it's nice and even and sat on correctly, which I think is there. Push down ever so slightly, ever so slightly. Come off the heat and wait for that to solidify, and hopefully we're okay. There it solidifies. Now lots of quick, satisfying cleaning. Get rid of all that flux whilst the board is hot. Turning the fume extractor off so I can hear myself think. How does it look? Okay, lovely. Let's go a bit closer under there as well. Yeah, there it is. Solder has gone up the legs as well. That's why I add the additional at the end. You don't always have to do that, by the way. Again, more so an OCD thing. I don't know what on earth that is. Get out. Right, let's give this a test. Okay, recording top down from here, and we have iPhone in the other. Does it turn on? Does it go to a white light, most importantly? Hopefully, this is a good sign because it means that we put on our HDMI encoder good. Let's wait for this to go to a white light. Okay, we have white light. Do we have display HDMI 1? I'm going to have to do this twice because it's just how the monitor works. I have no idea why. So it's going to fail this time. Shock. And do we get display now? Come on. Say HDMI 1. Yes. Monitor lock. Yes. There we go. It is just restarting. It went back to a blue light. But this is absolutely awesome. Well, it did display, and then it just cut off. But it's not gone back to my my PC, so it's still on the PS5 display, and we still have a white light. If it wasn't picking up the PS5, it would be going back to my PC, so I don't understand what's happening right now. I'm just going to hold the phone here for a few more seconds and see. All right, well, yeah, it does go back to my PC. Oh, and it's just shut off. There is a high possibility there that it has overheated because I don't have the fan attached, even though the heatsink is pretty much stone cold. But I am confused as to why it hung like it did. It was also on the PlayStation logo for quite a long time at the start. So I don't know if this has some sort of corrupt software as well. I'm going to put it back together to a standpoint where I can attach the fan and see what happens then. Chassis back on. Fan not screwed in, neither is anything else. But let's give it some power. I'll go back to my phone as well just in case. Right, it does power on, and the fan does spin. We get a white light, but is it going to restart again because of the fact it didn't turn off properly? Again, this is going to go back to my display port. And now we need to go HDMI 1. What do we get? Anything? We get monitor lock, HDMI 1. Right, it's doing something here. Still on the white light. This is so interesting because, like I said, if in the event this doesn't lock on to the PS5, it will just go back to the PC like that. But that was and it's turned off. So it wasn't in fact overheating. What's going on? Very confused right now. Could it be that the encoder that I put on from the donor was faulty? Perhaps. Or maybe those were the type of display issues that they were getting in the first place. I think this one just got a lot more complicated. First things first, holding down the power button here, does it go into safe mode? I got a second beep and it's white light. Is it in okay, so we get safe mode. I'm glad I tried that. To me, this definitely smells like corrupt software. And I feel like this would have turned off by now because it's been a minute or two. And it's not yet turned off. So I've connected a controller. Let's clear the cache and rebuild the database. Back to a white light. And again, just a black screen. I wonder if it tries to boot normally after you've attempted to clear the cache. And it's just turned off. Let's go back into safe mode. Let's go with reset PS5. Yes, we are sure that's what we want to do. Okay, let's see if this does anything. It's just turned off again whilst it was resetting the PS5. I genuinely don't believe it's a cooling issue because it won't boot into the OS. So I definitely feel like it's something software related. I'm thinking maybe will UART help us in this situation, but I don't know if it will because the console is just randomly shutting down. Okay, the database is corrupt. Restart your PS5. Even if you select do this latest, recommend you restart the PS5 as soon as possible. Restart. Or at least we can see stuff. The display is fine. Look, there we go. The thing is, does this now just turn off? Blue light. Sorry, I just realized I wasn't recording on OBS, so my audio might be with this. Okay, we've got a white light on the PS5. HDMI has locked. Do we get a display? We do. Okay. Are you going to turn off? Or are you going to stay on now? I'm so confused. All right. HDCP is disabled. I've set up an account on here. It's not shut off, which is good. If I wiggle the HDMI port, as you can see in the top right, nothing, it's not cutting off or anything, which is really, really good as well. I do have an error on here on the error history saying that the database is corrupt, but now it seems to be absolutely fine. So I don't know if this was in relation to the previous ones and it cut out when I reset the console. I'm going to have to go with some Fortnite just to, again, stress test this enough, make sure it downloads the game, and also that I can play it and that it doesn't shut off. And then what I'm probably going to do is reset the console again just to ensure that I don't get any more errors. That's when I'll then be happy to sell this. We fixed the no display issue. I wonder if that's all they needed to do previously was just completely reset the PS5. But I'm glad I did what I did because I wasn't happy with the way the chip looked anyway. Or it could have been they weren't getting the display because of the chip that they had put on and the way they had put it on. But then this was an issue on top of that regardless, you know? Who knows? All in hindsight. All that I do know is that it's now on and working. I haven't, however, tested the disk drive yet. So, okay, we have a disk icon, which is good. I can hear it spinning up. Yes, FIFA. There we go. FIFA 23. That's the disc. So I'll get that installed as well, give it all a test run and confirm later if it's going to be okay. I personally think now it's going to be all right. Naive little Joey thinking it was going to be all right. It wasn't. I played games. I played FIFA. I played Fortnite, and it was good. And then I thought, oh, I'll go ahead and reset it and get it ready for the selling of eBay. And you best believe it shut down. And I was like, what? It's just turned off again? Went to power it on, and then for some reason just kept crashing over and over again through the setup process this time, which it wasn't doing before. So I now have a decision: the blue pill or the red pill. Blue pill is go ahead and replace the HDMI chip just in case I had a faulty one and that's causing something graphically to be an issue. Red pill, change out the SSD controller or even potentially some SSD chips because it more so feels like, to me, a corrupt system software. But Joey, you forgot about the yellow pill. Take a USB stick and completely, freshly install the PS5 software. I'm going to take the yellow pill, try that first, go through some testing. I won't bore you with it, and I shall report back. Back over to the microphone on the iPhone, so I apologize. I did go ahead and completely reinstall the PS5 software. Just started playing FIFA, and then this error came up with the standard 108255-1 error, so it's still not working. This is a game disc, by the way. So after going down the yellow pill option, it still didn't work. We had the crashes. I decided to take it to a live stream, which I'll show you now, where I look to replace the SSD controller IC and the power supply to see if that rectifies our issue. Right, let's put this over here because I'm going to reuse this SSD controller IC, and we can all agree on which one we're going to use. I think we're going to use, now these are size 5 mil, 0.5 mil, not 5 mil, 0.5 mil balls. Just make sure that it's a 62 GG and not a 7.0. If it's a 7.0, it'll be straight on eBay, if I'm honest. Yeah, 62 GG. Nice, nice, nice. Right, let's warm the board up. I'm not going straight on the chip, by the way. We're preheating the board. I'd love to get a preheating one. I just, again, space. I don't know where to put that. Unless I balance it on top of my head whilst I'm streaming. That's the only way that I could probably get away with having a preheater. I'll come in with the flux in a second. Okay, let's go flux now. A board heater for this sort of situation would be ideal. SSD controller's the biggest chip that I probably deal with quite easily, actually. Right, I'm going to take the end off. It's getting there. I'm going to up it. I tried to play at 460. It's not happening, so I'm going to go 480, 99%. And then when I put the new IC on, because that'll have leaded balls, we could do that at 450, 460, as long as the board's warm. Of course, no wonder games are crashing if it's taking this long to get this chip off. Lord above, it's been welded. Here we go. I don't want to pull too much, so I'm just going to poke it up until I feel like it's going to come off. There we go. So we've got 400 degrees on the soldering iron. We're going to add some more flux. Kingbo flux, RMA 218. Cheap stuff, but does the job efficiently, effectively, you name it. And then what I'm going to do is come in with a big tip here. Leaded solder on the end of the iron. And I'm just going to go around this area right here. The board is still toasty as well, so this is a great time to move and get this done. Alright, just mix that leaded with unleaded. That's what we're doing here, that's the job. Mix the leaded with the unleaded. And then what we're going to do is grab a braid. And we're going to snip. Be careful when you snip. And then we're going to come straight in with soldering iron. Now, again, this is what I like to do, okay? I like to pull the wick and push the wick if I can. Obviously, it's not always doable. But I like to push and pull the wick itself rather than the actual iron. I find this works better on the pads. There will obviously be occasions where this can't be helped and you're probably going to take off the solder mask. That will happen. Or the conformal coating, because this is what this is, right? This is conformal coating. Solder mask is what we put on. I just try and push as much as I can. Yes, it does get hot sometimes, but it's what we have to do, the love of the job. I just try and push it as much as I can because I just rest the iron. I rest the iron on the wick, and that's how, a lot of the time, what you should see, hopefully, before I talk myself into this, is that I don't get rid of the conformal coating on the board by doing that. But now we'll just go over and get the bits off that we need. You can see, so I'll just push down, and like down here as well, look. It's just a little technique that I feel like I just randomly discovered completely by accident, and I was like, oh, it works better if I just push and pull on the actual wick itself rather than use the iron to wick, you know? You always come up with your own techniques, but maybe use that as like a little bit of a guide to try, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then now as well, I've started to do this. I've started to use a microfiber cloth to get off big bits of flux, because then I just wash the microfiber cloths in the washing machine. It does wonders. And I'm going to come in with a cloth and just simply do that. Now, in a lot of occasions, I just dab rather than, you don't want to stroke in a lot of the time, because if you stroke, that's when you're going to pull components. But if you dab, nothing wrong with that. There we go, looking good. Missed 2, yeah. So now what we do is we go back over the board. So on the ones that we see, we've got one top right, and we've got a couple down the bottom right as well. So we just go over those ones. We add a little bit more heat back into the board, just on the area that we're working with. And then we come in with a tiny bit of flux. Again, just over the areas with the balls. There, and where is it? Here. What works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work for me. Trial and error. You'll find your own path. We got one more little blob, just where did I see it? Down here. And can you see the conformal coating? We look pretty good, eh? I think that's probably one of the toughest things, I would say, honestly. In the experience of doing this, I'd say not trying to lift up any of the conformal coating is hard, and there will be occasions where you can't do that. No matter what you do, it will happen. I promise you. No matter how careful you are, there will be occasions where you take components off and there's conformal coating missing, or you scrape it away. Like, it just happens. The main thing is being able to rectify it yourself. All right, that's the main thing, being able to rectify it. But here I might have just got lucky, but I like to think I reduce my chances as long as I'm super careful. Right, we're going to heat up again, and again I'm going to let's lower the temp now. Let's go for, I think 460 is more than doable. Yeah, a tiny bit of flux just there. And now what I'm going to do is come in with cotton swab. Need a little bit more. And now we take our donor chip. Now we have pin 1, which is in the top left up here. You can see with the little arrow, and the one corresponding on the chip is also an arrow. Don't let the circles put you off, because that has happened to me on multiple occasions. But it's quite easy to line this up because it falls in the little corners. Can you see? So now that is in line. So I'm going to come in with my tweezers, hold that down, and lift up. There we go. That's in. So we come straight over the top here. No messing about. And what I'm going to do now is just make sure that this chip sits flat in the boundaries that we have. So I'm just going round and round and round and round and round. Waiting for it to stick to the board. Now if I come off the heat, I think that's going to be stuck to the board. Now I'm going to try and nudge it. Ready? Stuck to the board. See that? So now what I'm going to do is comfortably come in with some flux. And we'll hit the outside and the top. And we need a lot of flux here, by the way. And we'll try and do a good job as we can of cleaning. Now all of that flux you've just seen has disappeared underneath the chip. When the chip is reflowing, it will push the flux back out. You'll see in a sec. There it goes. It sucks it all in. And then in about 3 seconds, you're going to start seeing it pour out. Here it goes. And now the chip is being repositioned. Sitting flat to the board. And I'm going to come in with a little nudge. Okay, here we go. See that? And up here. That's all I'm going for. A little bit more. 3 seconds worth of heat. Just to make sure every single ball is liquefied. And there we go, come off. And I can't really show this on camera, but I'm now going to do the flushing, okay? I'm just going to make sure by putting a drop of IPA, it's still a little bit too hot. So I'm just going to wait for a couple of seconds. Okay, no, it's not bubbling. It's bubbling a tiny, tiny bit, so I'm just going to flush this out real quick. Are you ready? This is the moment of truth. It could all go downhill from here. I could have to do the whole thing again. 3, 2, 1. How do we look? I think we're looking very pretty. 0.5 balls. I think we're looking pretty. Yeah, now we just got to hope it fixes the issue. But you can see I've got rid of all the flux under there as well. See that? Okay, it turns on. Does it stay on? Sounds good. Feels good. Looks good. Now, like I said, if this crashes, jubbly. If it doesn't crash, jubbly. Is it crashed? No. I am going to play against the AI. I'm going to put it on the hardest difficulty. Like I said, I'm really upset. Why don't we try the power supply? Right, let's put this over to the side for the time being, that is. This turns on, that's good. Are we on? Oh, don't tell me it's going to do the same thing. Software, it's system software application data. So I don't think it's anything to do with the PSU. So I think it's the SSD. Yeah, look, it's crashing. Look, Not even on a game. Not even on a game. You see that? Still got a white light. Safe mode works absolutely fine. Myself and everybody else watching also then confirmed that maybe I should try the SSD chip. So I've changed out the SSD controller, the power supply, and now we're going to try and change the actual SSD that is on the motherboard. This consists of 3 different chips out of the 5 that are on the board. You can't change 2 of them for whatever reason. I believe they're paired. Just going to add leaded solder here. We're just going to go over these and make them all nice and ready. And now back to recording, Joey. Here are the SSDs that I've taken from a donor board that I'm going to put onto our current board. So we'll go over to the scope and I'll quickly explain the process of reballing these. Now, I really hope I'm right in thinking that it doesn't matter which one of these goes whereabouts on the board because I've lost whichever orientation they go in. Okay, so first one in the little PCB holder, I'm going to repeat the same process for every single one, and that is simply just add a little bit of leaded solder, very much like what I did cleaning the pads on the board we're working on. Add leaded and then come in with our wick and just wick this up. There we go, and I've done the same for the other 2 as well, just off camera. So I have dried some solder paste out here. I'm now just going to put it in the holes for each one. Again, same process for every single one, so I'll only show you one of these. If I can get it working, that is. So I'm actually going to go 280 degrees here, and an airflow speed of 20%. Let's have a look and see how we get on. Put the airspeed up a bit. There we go, looks good to me. Just now go with a little bit of a reflow just to make sure they're all set on correctly. And then we should be able to just rinse and repeat. There we go. Jubbly. 3 times over. There we go. 3 SSD chips ready to put on the board, looking nice and bold. Now you can see up here we've got a little arrow, and we've got the same arrow here, which indicates pin 1 of the SSD chip. I'm now just going to warm up the board at 450 degrees Celsius, ready to put both of these chips on. And then one on the back as well, so it's these 2 and one on the back. A little bit of flux, line them up correctly. Now they do poke out a little bit. On this SSD chip here, this is one that's factory on the board. You actually have 4 pads here, and the same on the other side, 4. Fun fact, on the chip, there's only 3 across. So when you go to put it on, it doesn't look like it's in the middle. It is. Just need to line it up correctly, which is exactly there. So you can see how like they're exposed at the bottom and the top. That's normal. Doesn't look it, and it feels really strange, but it is. 450 degrees Celsius, 50% airflow. So we have a little bit of... Is that flux or solder? I think it's solder. Yeah, it is. That was on top of the chip, so I need to be careful. There we go. I think that's tacked down, so if I go to tap it. Solid. Now we come over with the flux. And reflow with a little nudge. Little nudge. There we go. Perfect. Come off. We'll do the exact same, just over here. We'll do it whilst it's hot. The board's hot. So a bit of flux. I'll do the one on the back fairly quick as well. This board is going to need a very nice clean, that's for sure. I've come to the realization that if this doesn't work, it's going to be the APU. Little poke. Good. And now we have a last but not least scenario. This one on the back. And reflow. Cool. And now just a very long cleaning process. So I'll be back with you in a second. And there we go. That's a nice clean now. You can see it skips the first ones. And we should be good. This angle probably shows you a little bit better. Nice and clean underneath. Right, let's give it a test. I'm not nervous. You're nervous. Okay. What happens? Please cross your fingers, your toes, and everything else you've got. If we encounter the same issue, I'm going to say APU. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay. Still work. And now it's a beep on, beep off. I don't believe it. Oh no. Can I get it in safe mode? No. The fan's spinning as well. So the fan spins, but it just kind of cuts out. So there's a few things that could have happened here. Those SSDs maybe need to go in the exact same location as you take them from the donor. Those SSD chips could have been faulty because, again, they were taken from a donor board. I potentially may have needed to restart the PS5 before I put those SSDs on in terms of factory reset. Or I could have soldered them on incorrectly. They look pretty good to me, but you just honestly never know. Safe to say, I'm going to call it there with this one. It's been a very long process, but we're just going to stick it on eBay, and unfortunately that is going to be a loss for the series. And hopefully with the work that it's had done to it, someone actually buys it. Over to Sally's Spectacular Spreadsheet, we paid $180, nothing on parts. I think I'm going to be able to get $130. That's what I was able to get for the last faulty PS5 I sold on the eBay, and that leaves us with a negative of £61.70. Wow, that one hurts. Minus 61.70 leaves us with a total profit of £755.88. It sucks that I kind of have to end this one so abruptly. I thought it was going to be much different. I've got some really good practice on this PS5 with the SSD chips and everything else, even though it hasn't obviously gone great. I'm fairly confident in the ability that I'm putting them on the board, but I've definitely messed something up. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. I'll leave the playlist starting from episode 1 just up here on the left hand side of your screen right now. Have a good rest of your day, week, weekend, whatever it is for you, and I shall see you as always in the next one. Peace.